Well, Haulie, here we are the Monday before the All-Ireland quarterfinals, and we're talking about a Cork team that was in the last 8 draw that is through to the big weekend in Croke Park. So Tomás O'Shea said it on the Sunday game on Sunday night that Cork have turned the corner. Would you go along with that assertion?
I would definitely say so. Like if you take 12 months ago, and in the space of that 12 months, we travelled to Croke Park last year to play Dublin in a quarter final, and it was damage limitation even before you went. You were after taking a trouncing off Kerry. You played, I think it was Loud and Limerick in the lead up to that game. Poor quality teams. The team or the group weren't in the same position that they are now. You had a far more convincing league campaign this year, even though there were a couple of blips in it. Let's say the Meath game, and you could have beaten Derry, who were now playing. You could have beaten Dublin. You were showing that there was that improvement that had happened in the intervening time. Fitness levels have improved hugely, and these games, and even thinking back like the last day when Brian Hurley didn't line out, the first thing that came into our heads was, are we going to be back in Innis again? Sorry about the dogs there. Are we going to be back in Innis again?
A very excited Cork fan.
Just 2 seconds. There's a car going. Yeah. But like it kind of had the feel of, are you going to be back in Innis again? There was that feeling of deja vu. Hurley is out, where the score is going to come from, But that was never going to happen again. I think that game in Innis could have been the best thing that ever happened to this group, because it seemed to really steal them and bring them together. And like Sherlock came in and did a far better fit from all the others. You take the first 20 minutes for what it was. It was very, very poor. But then, they turned the corner before halftime, got the few scores, came out reinvigorated, went ahead. But then there's a learning there as well. They probably set back that too soon and invited Roscommon on and could have ended up losing the game, but had the wherewithal and the fortitude to engineer that final score decline. So look, I think we're going to Croke Park this time with belief and a genuine chance that we can beat Derry, rather than going in fear and, hoping to control the scoreboard like we did last year.
Like you said there, Haulie, when Cork land up to Croke Park this weekend, it's in a far different position to 12 months ago. After beating 2 Division 1 teams in a row for the first time, I think someone said since 2000 and is it 13 or 14 years, I think, in that length of time. But not only that, but
I think 12 years was mentioned.
Yeah, but not only that, Haulie, the fact, like even John Cleary saying the group was a lot fitter this year. You can see now that the team is able to last 70 minutes. Rewind to last year, that Munster semi-final against Kerry and that All-Ireland quarter-final against Dublin up in Croke Park. In the second half, Cork faded in both. What we've seen in the last couple of games is Cork are coming strong in the last quarter and they're able to get the winning scores. So there's so many signs and reasons for optimism for Cork fans ahead of this weekend. But before we look back in the game last weekend, just to get your thoughts on the draw, when you saw it's Cork and Derry this weekend, what was your first reaction?
Well, my initial thought would have been that I'd like to have had Armagh, because I would have seen Armagh as the kind of lesser of the three, and it would have been the best draw for Cork, and it would have been a good step in their direction, and you'd have had I'd have seen that as your major chance of getting into an Ireland semi-final. Not that I don't think that Cork can beat Derry, but I suppose, the last 2 games, Kevin Walsh's familiarity with Mayo and Roscommon probably has played a huge part in Cork's performances against those 2 teams. And look, there's familiarity there now again, because you're familiar with Derry. You've played in the last 2 years in the National League. We've seen an awful lot of them. They were at the business end last year. They looked like they're one of the farm teams this year that are going to be All-Ireland contenders. But that familiarity is not as if we're going in, with our eyes closed and haven't any experience of what we're going to be playing. We've already seen these fellas this year in Páirc Uí Chaoimh and know what they're capable of. And I think even between that time and this, I think Cork have improved an awful lot. And the good thing about it is there's still a huge amount of room for improvement that we could take from the game last Sunday.
I was just looking at some of Derry's results there. They topped Group 4 of the round robin stage, beat Donegal, beat Clare, drew with Monaghan in their opener, go back to the Ulster Championship, and they came through against Armagh in an epic Ulster final. And like you said, Haulie, last year, All-Ireland semi-finalist as well. So they're very much a team that's been coming the last couple of years. What do you think the big danger about this Derry team is for Cork?
Well, I suppose we've seen the last 2 years and no Cork have improved, but Derry's physicality and fitness levels were far ahead of where Cork were. And I know that Cork drew with them in the league, but like at one stage Derry were 7-up and left Cork back into it to equalise. But for long stages in that game earlier in the year, they were far superior to Cork. They have some fantastic players. You have Conor Glass and Rogers in the middle of the field. O'Callaghan and Maguire are going to have to be at their absolute best to break 50-50 there. Chrissy McKagan, their back line, McKinless, up front, McGuigan and Ethan Doherty. They look a little bit further down the line than Cork at the moment, but we'll be hoping that Cork have so much room for improvement, even from the Roscommon game, that they can be very close or even get over the line with this one.
Looking back, so in the Roscommon game on Saturday, big result for Cork in front of almost 15,000 fans in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. It was a game Cork were down 4 points in the first half, went up 5 points in the second half. Then Roscommon hauled themselves level, and we had that late winner by Kevin O'Donovan. But what's the big positive that you took out of this game, Haulie?
Well, I suppose we have to remember as well that you've developed huge consistency. And I suppose we were talking a while ago about the difference between Cork last year and Cork this year. We have to remember that Daniel O'Mahony didn't play last year, Tommy Walsh didn't play last year, Luke Fahey didn't play last year, Brian O'Driscoll or Rory Dean. That's a third-year team. And all these fellas are major players over the last three or four games for Cork now. So like that third of the team has been such an improvement, because like those 5 guys bring such physicality, such running ability, and such power and football ability, obviously, to the team. That has made a huge difference. And they've like, even in that short intervening amount of time, like we always said that you had Maguire and you had Powter were kind of the 2 natural leaders on the Cork team. But like, you'd have to say after the last 2 games, there are leaders, if not numerous leaders, in every line of the pitch. You saw Tommy Walsh's point before halftime at the outside of the right. That not alone brought the team into the game, it brought the whole crowd in the stadium into the game. Rory Maguire's 2 points after halftime. Like, he's showing unbelievable leadership this year at vital times in games. Brian O'Driscoll was man of the match for me. I don't know, did he get the overall man of the match or not, but his work rate was absolutely savage, and the physicality he brings to the game. So look, like, first 20 minutes was terrible. We looked better without the ball than we did with it. In other words, our defensive structure was very good, but then we were turning it over and the play and taking the ball into the tackle and taking poor decisions on shots. And we were letting Roscommon dictate the game. After halftime, we pressed on the kick out, got the reward. Carver got the goal. We went 5 up, and all of a sudden you could even see the signal on the field, or whether it came from the bench. We retreated, invited Roscommon on. They got the 5 back, and in the end, we were probably lucky that I think it was Conor Daly, overcarried, and we got the free out, and Maguire and Powter managed to get Kevin O'Donovan in for the fisted winner. So look, there's so much there they can improve on. The first 20-25 minutes, terrible. We saw more variety on Cork's long kick out, which we hadn't seen. It was long and left all year. It was far more varied when they went long the last day. So there's heaps of improvement, and the belief and confidence that they're going to get from another win over a big team. That's going to play a huge part as well.
For the development of this Cork team, to beat Mayo in the Gaelic grounds the weekend before last, to beat Roscommon at home last weekend, 2 Division 1 teams, and John Cleary spoke about it in the Star last week, that I suppose we have to wait and see how much these wins will benefit this Cork team and take them further along the road. But now Cork are winning games against Division 1 teams. They're eking out different ways to win. Like against Mayo, came back 1-6 in the final quarter. Against Roscommon, the last day, it was an injury time point. So we're seeing this Cork team is learning different ways to win as well, which is probably important, Haulie, as they keep developing.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Like close encounters bring a team together, and if you get out the other end of close encounters, it has a great gelling effect, and it instills huge belief in the camp. And you can imagine, people complain about the games coming thick and fast weekend after weekend, but the Cork squad and the Cork dressing room must be a wonderful place to be at the moment. After those 2 big wins, getting back into training they're probably on a recovery session on Sunday, but getting back into training on Tuesday or Wednesday night, instantly having to prepare for the next game, knowing it's going to be another huge game, knowing you're in a good place, knowing you're in extremely good condition. if, and I suppose the one worry is, will Hurley make it the next day? Will Luke Fahey make it the next day? How fit was Rory Dean going into the game the last day? I suppose that's the other side of the games coming thick and fast. But then you look to have your panel look strong as well, because what's happening coming off the bench has been extremely beneficial also. Where you got 1-5 off the bench against Mayo, and you got 1-3 the last day off the bench. And you'd be hoping also that Conor Corbett, who was an extremely promising minor and under 20 player, that goal the last day would be the boost in confidence he needs to start showing that level of that level of ability that he has, that will make him a top class senior player.
You mentioned there about Brian Hurley. Obviously, he was out injured against Roscommon. We don't know whether he'll be back or not for Derry this weekend. But for Cork to do what they did and to win a game without their captain, without their the top forward of the last couple of years, that's probably another encouraging sign that other fellas have stepped up. And Haulie, this is also a Cork team. We don't have Colin O'Mahony either. So we saw Sherlock the last year. You said like Corbett off the bench. We saw a lot of scores from Rory Maguire, Tommy Walsh, and lads like this. So we're getting scores from everywhere. But to win a game without Brian Hurley, again, it's probably important for the group.
Well, it's definitely important for the group. But, Hurley is a very important player. But I'd say he's been struggling for a while with these injuries that he's been carrying now, because you could see in the Mayo game when Mayo got on top after half time and O'Hara was marking him, and O'Hara started to take off, and Brian Hurley was at that stage, whether he had picked somebody up or not, he was starting to struggle to follow him. And the question was, would John Cleary hold Sherlock again, or would he start him? And I suppose he had no choice but to start him. And sure, Sherlock first touch, left foot over the bar. Do you know what I mean? Like, he did his job as the lone ranger up front. And I suppose if you look at it really, like, Cork they're playing six backs, then you have your two midfielders and probably five of the forwards. They're probably midfielders or half forwards as well. So like, you're playing 6-7-1 as such. Do you know what I mean? So like that one guy up front who was Sherlock the last day is extremely important. But I think Corbett, if Corbett can get his belief and confidence up, he could play a huge part, considering Colin O'Mahony isn't there either. So look, the scores are coming from different parts of the field, and it's showing great confidence from the likes of Tommy Walsh and Rory Maguire and these boys. But then, there was a huge amount of wastefulness there in the first half the last day as well. You saw the shot from Kieran O'Sullivan and Brian O'Driscoll had a poor shot. Luke Fahey had a poor shot. Rory Dean got turned over 3 times there in the first half, taking the ball into the tackle. We're doing very, very well, but there's still so many things we can do better that it makes it exciting going into the Derry game.
You mentioned earlier, Haulie, about Brian O'Driscoll. You gave him your man of the match. He was immense the last day against Roscommon, and John Cleary was chatting about him after to the media, and he was saying that Brian is now starting to fulfil that potential that he had as an under-21. There was last years for Brian, the last 3 or 4 years, when he wasn't involved with the senior squad. But Cleary has brought him back, and he's repaying Cleary now with his performances. What have you made of Brian the last couple of days, a couple of games, and what do you think that he brings to this team?
Well, I suppose the first time I got up close and personal with Brian O'Driscoll, apart from playing against him way back in the day, was when I was with Carberry last year. And look, he's a phenomenal athlete and a phenomenal leader. It was the first real taste of you get to know him in the dressing room, you get to know him outside the dressing room, your training and all the rest of it. It was the first real sense of him that I got. And look, he's in unbelievable shape. A lot of people think that he's far older than what he is, because he's been around for so long. He played for 4 years under 21. He played under 21 the same year as he was minor. So a lot of people think that he's on the 30 mark and over, but he's actually in his absolute prime, and he's in absolute prime condition. And there's even more in him. You saw him with Carberry last year. A lot of his playing in the league and in the early stages of the championship, I would consider it nearly as cagey from his own point of view. He has a lot more ability to kick points from distance. His foot passing ability, there's more there. But his GPS stats and his ability to cover the field, I'd love to see them, because it must be up there with the best on the Cork squad and up there with anybody in the country, I'd say, at the moment. And his physicality, his ability to cover the pitch, his ability to link up the play, he can score, he can defend, like you saw. I think it was the very last play, the last time when Roscommon were pushing for the equaliser after Cork getting the point. It was O'Driscoll did the interception back in the right corner back position. So like he was still going at full tilt at what, 75, 76 minutes, you know, which is a testament to himself, considering he had been out of it for 3 or 4 years. And the talk is always there that it takes 2 or 3 years to get up to the level of fitness to play inter-county. It was just a mark of the man and how well he minds himself that he was instantly able to go in and be at the level and be ready to play for Cork.
Switching it back so to this weekend, Cork, Derry. What do you think Cork need to improve to have a chance of taking Derry down?
Well, if they do what they did in the first 20 minutes again, Derry will punish Cork far more than Roscommon did. Like Roscommon were probably, considering they were so much on top, they were probably too patient in what they were trying to do. They could have put Cork to the sword far more comprehensively in that first 25, 30 minutes. You know, Cork probably only created 1 goal chance. You had the hand pass that went across to Maguire. I can't remember who gave that hand pass in the first half again. One went over Maguire's head. That was the only other half chance. I suppose you did have Chris Jones mispicked up a ball that went out for a wide ball. That was probably another half goal chance, but Carber's one was probably the one main chance, and we had been creating far more goal chances than that, and we will need goal chances against Derry. The game management in the last 10 minutes, I would say, was questionable, considering that the high press and the kick out had worked so well and you were in full control of the game. And Cork retreated, invited Roscommon on, and almost lost the game as a result. It was far too early to retreat. There were still 10, 12, 13 minutes on the clock. We were in control of the game. We could have pushed on from 5 points. You'll be happy if Hurley is fit that he'll bring an extra bonus to it. If Luke Fahey isn't fit, will you see the likes of Tom Clancy Clan coming in, who actually played very well when he came on the last day and looked very comfortable. So look, I think Cork will go up there with absolutely no fear and go up there to have a serious cut off Derry. And I would not be one bit surprised if this went down to the wire again and Cork came out the right side.
Fantastic. That's the hope we all share, Haulie, that Cork come out the right side this weekend. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.